This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, hi everyone. Your favorite time of the week. Some questions on Parshas Vayikra, some Imponderables. Only very few this week, but we'll see what you think. Now, usually in English language, you usually say as follows. You usually use a noun, and then you could refer to that noun with a pronoun. So I say, Reb Baruch Plagman came to the Shiur. It's only a few hours before Shabbos for him, yeah? So, fine. But I wouldn't say, he came to the Shiur, it's only a few hours before Shabbos for Reb Baruch Plagman. Why? Because first you need to identify the noun, and then you could refer to it as a pronoun. But it's very unusual to first use a pronoun and then use a noun. So just could somebody explain to me the opening pasuk in this week's Parsha? Vayikra el Moshe, and he called to Moshe. Yeah, just tell me, who called to Moshe? Oh, Vayidaber Hashem el Elav. Huh? Since when do you talk that way? It should say, Vayikra Hashem el Moshe, Vayidaber Elav. I don't know, that seems like a simple question to me. Vayikra el Moshe, and he called to Moshe. Who's the he? Who is he? Who called to Moshe? Aaron? It doesn't sound like it's Hashem, because Hashem is being Vayidaber Elav in a few seconds. Vayidaber Hashem Elav. Many years ago, actually, I had when I was growing up, the Rav of our shul was Rabbi Yitzchak Izbi. He was Adam Chashav. Nebuch, he passed away at a young age. But there's somebody who made a big rosham on me. He was a son-in-law of Reb David Kronglass, and he would say over from the Nesiva Shalom that the interpretation of the beginning of Vayikra, and he didn't say this to answer this question, but I think it does, is the Nesiva Shalom would explain this pasuk as follows: Vayikra el Moshe, anything in life that occurred and called out to Moshe. Anything that happened to him, anything that called to him, whether it was a success or a setback or a failure or a difficulty or a challenge or a happiness, Vayikra el Moshe, Vayidaber Hashem Elav, anything that happened to Moshe, Moshe took it as Hashem was speaking to him. It's a very beautiful perush, very important idea, and perhaps it answers this question. But I think it's an important question to think about. What in the world does the opening pasuk in Parshas Vayikra mean? Okay, next question.
Maybe it's connected to the last pasuk in Vayikra.
I don't know, what does it say over there? It says Va'anan Hashem al ha'ana, no? It says
He wasn't allowed in.
I don't know. See, does it float? And if so, then we don't need to say Hashem. They could say Vayidaber Elav also. Why is Hashem only later on in the pasuk?
This is the permission to come in. Come into the oil. And then
But the question, who called him? Who's the he? Then Rashi says that Rashi tells us Vayikra el Moshe Hakol hoylech umagia la'aznav v'chol Yisrael lo yishaymin. So Rashi says, if God called Moshe before he spoke to him, Yachal af lahafsakos hoysa kriya, I would think maybe God called him before the pauses. Talmud loymer vayidaber ledibur hoysa kriya v'loy lahafsakos. God only called him before he spoke to him, but not before a recess. Why would I think that God called Moshe before recess? What would he call him to do? Moshe, take a break now. So Rashi says, no, God did not call Moshe before recess. He only called him to Shiur. So what's the Havamina that Hashem called Moshe for recess? Actually, come to think of it, maybe you would say that Hashem made an official announcement. Okay, it's recess now. And the Chiddush is, no, God only let him know. The bell only rang So it sounds like Rashi saying the bell only rang for Shiur. The bell didn't ring when Shiur was over. When Shiur was over, the Shiur just stopped, but the bell didn't ring. So now we could ask, why didn't the bell ring? Why didn't the bell ring for recess? I guess perhaps, the Gemara says you should always be from among those who call that the Shiur is coming and not be among those who let everyone know that the Shiur is over. So where do we learn that from? Maybe we learn that from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem only made it an announcement when the Shiur started. He didn't make it an announcement when the Shiur was over. Okay, something interesting to think about. And then I would have liked more time to ponder this, but I think about this over Shabbos. Rashi at the end of the Parsha, Perek Hey, Pasuk Yud Zayin. Rashi says on the pasuk, "V'im nefesh ki secheta ve'asasa achas v'kol mitzvos Hashem asher lo yisei asena v'layada ve'ashem v'nasa avoinai." Rashi brings 4 different limudim from this pasuk. Rabbi Yossi Haglili says, what are we talking about here? We're talking about a guy who ate 2 pieces of meat. He thought both were kosher, and it turned out one was chelev, and he doesn't know even if he inadvertently ate the chelev. So says Rashi, says Rabbi Yossi Haglili, if the pasuk punishes someone who didn't know, al achas kama v'kama, is there punishment for someone who does know? Rabbi Yossi says, if you want to know the reward for tzaddikim, learn out from Adam HaRishon. Adam HaRishon was only commanded on 1 lav, and he violated. See how many misos were penalized upon him. So let's extrapolate. If that is the punishment for 1 aveira, alachas kama v'kama, if someone doesn't do an aveira, how great the reward will be. Rabbi Akiva then says, you want to know the reward for mitzvahs? It says, al pi shnayim edim, or shloisha edim. Well, if Eidos works with 2 Eidim, why do you have to say it works with 3 Eidim? The answer is, it's to be machmer on the 3rd Eid. That if it turns out that we are mezim or makchashim, we're going to punish him. But the Eidos didn't need him. Yeah, but he tagged along. And when you tag along to do something wrong, you're punished. Says Rabbi Akiva, if you tag along to do something wrong, you're punished. All the more so if you tag along to do a mitzvah. By the way, we learned from the Ramban last week that tagging along to do a mitzvah is even if you stand around and you're mechavein to be part of it, like by the Aron, where Klal Yisrael couldn't all create and build the Aron, but they were mechavein to be part of the Aron, so they were rewarded as if they did it. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, you want to learn the reward of mitzvahs? Learn it from shikha. You have a guy, he forgot a bundle, and an ani finds it, and he's nisparnes. A person gets a bracha. Alachas kam kam. If somebody intends to give tzedakah, certainly they will be blessed. So I have one simple question. The question is, why did each of these respective Tanoim teach this particular lesson? Why is Rabbi Yossi Haglili the one who teaches the lesson of being punished if you didn't realize it was an Avera? Certainly if you do. Why is Rabbi Yossi the one who teaches the reward for not violating Lavin? Why is Rabbi Akiva the one to teach the reward of tagging along to do a mitzvah? Why is Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah the one who teaches the reward that if you're rewarded for inadvertent mitzvah performance, alachas kama v'kama, if you intend? In other words, why did each Tana, why were they led to their particular drasha? I think if you study each Tana's life and history and Shoresh HaNeshama, it will yield a very interesting connection between that and the drashas that they taught Klal Yisrael. Okay, I want to show you something else here.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.